Hey, it's Jegant Drago here, and I wanted to do another video talking about boosters. This was a post quite a while back that I found by a person named WeakestBrMale. So credit to him. He has a lot of very interesting ideas about boosters, and it's a launch off point for talking about not just boosters, but there are some ideas for the DSS. Actually, that's a launching point for me, that I want to talk about the DSS and how it seems just a little flawed that there are only 3 options for us to choose from. And many times when I get into the game, sometimes I just like to just go to where the DSS is. I know it's not the best option. Sometimes people just let it go to wherever they want to. And when I check out the booster on the DSS for the day, nothing is going on in it. Everything is either on cooldown or slowly being funded, and that just seems like a flaw that sometimes whenever you come into the game you just won't get any buffs from the DSS because it's once again out of commission, it's loading and funding, or it's on cooldown. And maybe for a future video that I would want to pitch something along the lines of 7 DSS buffs, so that there could be at least 1 buff in rotation on every single day. But right now we only have 3. So that's the main sort of semi-topic launching off point from this person's post about boosters. Basically, some of these boosters feel like it will make much more sense and sounds much more cooler if it's coming from a DSS instead of a booster option. And right on time for the first one that they posted was this Thief reinforcements. So it's periodically Pelicans will deliver squads of Thief soldiers to aid the Helldivers on the battlefield. And so typically from the missions in the cities, a Thief soldier will have at least a Liberator. Apparently I just discovered that their Liberators are medium pen and ours is light pen. That's kind of bullshit, but in any case, and they will have also a Eats on their back and a couple grenades. So a Thief soldier will, at least when called down, will have a system or way to kill some tanks. Now, what is the periodic nature of them spawning? At the very most would be, let's say, every 5 minutes. And then since the Pelican, we as 4 Helldivers will get in the Pelican, maybe it's fair to say that 4 Thief soldiers will come out of the Pelican as well. And that is technically 4 Eats to kill 4 different tanks, and then they'll use their Liberators and grenades as much as possible. The question now is that if they technically have a limited amount of ammo, what happens after they actually run out of ammo? Would they just technically just run into the distance and run out of the map? Where do they go after that, if they do survive? That is the question. But I think this one will be best on a DSS as something that we fund and happens around once a week. So very cool idea. Next is this Permaculars sponsorship. So Helldivers will passively heal health if their stamina bar is filled to the max. It is slow and needs a few seconds without taking damage to activate. Now this reminds me of this character in Apex Legends. Damn, I forgot his name now. He's the guy that likes to stim himself to run faster. Octane, yeah, Octane. I've always thought that the Helldivers medic armor should have Octane's passive. So in this case, this is a booster version, but in my personal vision, the medic armor having its own internal slow heal for the Helldivers sounds very much in line with what a medic armor would be. It's just your own self-healing type of armor, and it will go quite hand in hand with the other booster that, what was it? It lets you run past your stamina and then you start taking damage, and then once it's low, then you like stop and then let the armor passive just heal you up slowly but surely. But on the other hand, there are a couple other boosters, since this one looked like the muscle enhancement. Well, some people do like the muscle enhancement. But yeah, this type of armor I've always wanted, or this type of passive I've always wanted it to be in an armor like the medic armor, and seems to fit quite well. Zero drifting target enhances the precision of orbital stratagems, making them actively try to hit possible targets in its effective zone. Allies are not discriminated. This is such a great passive idea, and personally I've always thought that this passive could be something sold in the ship modules instead. First and foremost, it will be sold separately as something only the orbital precision strike will have. So one thing about the OPS is that it will take some skill to aim, which is cool, but as you level up, it's somewhat expected that you'll gain much more power, you'll have greater abilities with your stratagems. And I keep reading that people want the OPS to be buffed compared to the 500. I don't know how much I agree with that, but if there is a buff, I would personally choose that the OPS will get this kind of targeting system similar to the rail cannon. And then similar to the ship modules, they come in threes. So the first one will be the targeting system for the OPS, and then the second one might be for the 120mm barrages, and then the third and last one would be for the walking barrage, the 380, and hopefully a couple more. Like, I've always wanted even the Gatling barrage to be able to move and follow its targets instead of just shooting in one location, and so this kind of idea is also very cool. Pelican support. Periodically, a pelican will pass through the map, fly over a random Helldiver from a random angle while shooting down enemies on its path. This is another one where I imagine instead of a booster, it would be cooler if it was a DSS upgrade, and just for one of those 24 hours. Instead of eagles, this would be different from the eagle, where eagles would just do its normal strafing run and then it would just shoot the ground, while this pelican support would be the pelican that, similar to all of our other pelicans, when it starts to fly down, it will shoot both air and ground, but it will either come take a longer time for it to come into the area, or that it stays in the area at a much shorter period of time compared to the eagle, just so that the eagle one that is mainly for ground targeting, it either comes much often and stays longer, while this pelican is both ground and air support because of its autocannon, and so it's either going to stay a little bit shorter than the eagle or come a little bit fewer times. Another great cool idea. Next is shielded resupply pods. This once again feels like a ship module upgrade, similar to how there's a old, or one of the early ship module upgrades that you can get is that your resupply will supply your support weapons to the full capacity instead of half. And this kind of ship module makes a little bit of sense where if you are the host, I assume, if you upgrade your ship to have this ability, then now your resupply pods will have a small shield to come with it instead of a booster. Now, once again, since some of these ship modules, they come in threes, so the first one will be a resupply pod as seen here that is shielded, and then the second level, let's say your support weapons that you call down gets a small shield for you to be able to safely pick them up. And then the third final one, the strongest version, would be that all turrets themselves will have its own internal shield for you and the turret themselves to be protected. So for you to be protected would be the emplacement machine gun or the cannon version. It'll have its own small shield. Of course, it's gonna be a smaller and lower HP shield compared to the main stratagem that's a full shield. And then the other turrets will have their own sort of small shield, so they have a little bit higher defenses. Corporation incentives. So Helldivers that run with other Helldivers to their side receive a mutual stamina bonus. The speed is unchanged, only the rate of stamina consumption is reduced. So this is also another very cool idea. I don't know how easy it is to implement this or how it would work exactly compared to other like stamina enhancements. If you're just running alone versus this one, it will have to be stronger than stamina enhancement because it requires teamwork, and sometimes you might not be running with a teammate, so it's harder to see this practically in use. So it would need to be stronger than stamina enhancement. So no comment about this. This one would be a great booster to add. Orbital spotter. Enemies on the map are spotted by the super destroyer and get highlighted to the Helldivers, making it easy for them to hit enemies through smoke or undercover. This might be one that I personally disagree with. It doesn't seem to be as practical compared to other booster ideas. There's not a lot of people who tend to use smoke, and saying undercover seems a little bit too generalized, and it's hard to envision what this creator wanted this kind of booster to do. Even when nighttime you would just tend to have a flashlight, or it's not really that hard to see anyways. So there might be other boosters that would be better used than this. And there's a couple other boosters like the UAV recon booster that already gives you a larger radar range. So it seems like a similar idea to that in a way. So this is one that doesn't hype me up too much. So Secret Ops Sniper Team. Outside of the map, a team of elite snipers precisely shoots APW-1 anti-material rifle projectiles against random enemies that get near the Helldivers. This is another great idea for, and I'll say it again, the DSS. So the DSS idea is just like what kind of boost and that it's a spaceship that has a lot of crew in them, so this kind of support coming from the DSS makes much more sense in the way that they'll send their sort of semi sniper ops team to give you support. So when it shoots against enemies that get near the Helldivers, what does that exactly mean, and how annoying could it be if you happen to dive away and then just so happen to dive into the bullet that travels? That would be something to think about. and sort of question how useful this kind of, and in my sort of personal preference, DSS kind of booster would be. But this is still a very cool idea, that it feels like the war is done in sort of a wider battle, that there's more involved in the war. That's why when the city maps and you start seeing siege soldiers fighting with you was such a cool feeling, that you are sort of not alone with just 4 Helldivers. There's like a larger army backing you up. With that said, this is such a cool, many ideas for boosters. All of them I prefer. These kinds of boosters are to be placed in the DSS, and a couple more could be sold as ship modules instead. And just talking about game design has always been a fun thing for me. So if you have any other ideas for these kinds of boosters or alternatives, feel free to leave a comment down below. And if you like this kind of video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And till we meet again.